Hi guys, let's summarize this crazy year 2024 and go through everything that happened. Well, not everything, cause that would take forever, maybe even a year since it's been a year. Stupid joke. Anyway, let's go through everything that happened in 2024. And all the fronts that Israel had been fighting with and kinda winning, not gonna lie.
Well, Israel is taking out their enemies one by one.
The first major action taken by Israel in the year 2024 was the elimination of Salah al-Aruri, 6th of January. Israel had completed the conquest of Gaza. April 1st, Brigadier General Muhammad eliminated 13th and 14th of April. They sent cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, drones from all over the Middle East. On the 19th of April, Israel had struck Isfahan. May 6th, Israel entered Rafah. May 19th, a helicopter went down, hit a mountain, and eliminated the butcher of Tehran, Raisi. On June 6th, we had Operation Arnon, where 4 hostages were rescued. July 5th, United Kingdom had made a very bad decision, electing the Labour. 13th of July, we had 2 assassination attempts. The successful one was, of course, the assassination of Mohammed Death, and the failed one was the attempt to assassinate Donald Trump. 26th of July, the opening of the Olympics in Paris, where they had showed the world how woke they have went. Part 2. Here's where we are at. All this time, Hezbollah kept sending rockets towards Israel and decimated the north. And we have a population that cannot go home. The thing is, Hezbollah was seen as a great threat. They had thousands, if not tens or hundreds of thousands of rockets aimed at Israel from people's kitchens and stuff like that, actually, yeah. Apparently, a good way to make money is get paid by Hezbollah for renting a room to host a missile in your apartment, and then you can just go around and not work anymore. How does Hezbollah make money? Drugs. Lots of drugs, if you were wondering. I always suspect those who defend them, what they do. Also, Assad had a great drug empire. So for real, Israel kinda was afraid from getting involved with Hezbollah and the generals and things like that, people who are deep into the concept that brought us October 7th, meaning avoiding all action, did push not to do anything. Yeah, the pager attack, that was against the military commandment. They didn't want it. They tried to leak it the day before, so Israel would be stopped from doing the pager attack. Yeah, the famous pager attack. On the 27th of July, a rocket hit Majd al-Shams and killed 12 Druze children.
This is not for the Israelis to decide. I think the international community has to make sure that whatever Israel does is not upending the regional order as we know it. And the US has a responsibility. So we've been in this cause for 12 months now of constantly red lines being crossed, mostly by the Israelis. The Hezbollah and Iran have played it fairly rationally, trying to be very cautious in how they respond, trying to leave off-ramps where they could. The Netanyahu government has kind of lost the opportunity at every sort of junction to use an off-ramp that was given to them.
Killed 12 Druze children. At that point, Israel had promised to retaliate and make sure Hezbollah is gone. I mean, they said, patience. We'll get there, patience. And for some time, it seemed that the assassination of Fuad Shukr on the 30th of July was kind of the retaliation, but it wasn't. It was an appetizer. We all know what came after because it became extremely famous, but Anyway, after this appetizer that was very appetizing, by the way, Fuad Shukr had killed many, many Americans and had a price tag on his head. Did the Americans approve this finally getting this terrorist who killed so many of their men? Probably not. They really did oppose any attacks on the Dahia quarter, which is, Dahia is a quarter to be honest, but the Dahia is the southern quarter of Beirut, anyway, where the Hezbollah is in Beirut. The Americans really did very much oppose this kind of attacks, but it happened and he was gone. And that was a very good appetizer for the next day, where Hania was eliminated in Tehran, in the heart of Tehran, while he was hosted by his Iranian sugar mamas, sugar papas, sugar ayatollahs. And it's not clear. Was it Israel who did it? The Iranians blamed Israel and swear to retaliate because there is nothing more embarrassing than not being able to protect your guest. You see, in the Middle Eastern culture, if you have a guest, you're responsible for their safety. And if you don't do that, that's very embarrassing. I mean, it's true for Arab culture. I don't know how much it's true for Persian culture, but considering the fact that they're under occupation of the Islamic regime, I guess they have Arab culture there as well. And maybe it's part of Persian cultures. So, yeah. And then at that point, they swore to get back at Israel.
هذا الانتصار الذي جرى في 7 من أكتوبر يجب أن نمسك به ونبني عليه ونراكم عليه. هناك جهاد البيان وجهاد اللسان. نعم، آن الأوان لجهاد السنان. خيبر خيبر يا يهود، خيبر يا يهود. جيش محمد سوف يعود، جيش محمد سوف يعود. فلسطين من البحر إلى النهر، ولن نعترف بإسرائيل.
Commercial break. I'm just kidding. Honorary mentions. Trump and Musk broke the internet on August 12th and really showed how irrelevant is the mainstream media. Thank goodness. That was a good start of we can communicate now and speak to each other and say our opinions, not via the filtered evil lens of the media that is the mainstream media. All right, let's go through other couple of things that happened. In the 27th of August, Farhan Qadi was found in tunnels in Gaza. Unfortunately, he was pretty close to other 6 hostages that were found later dead on the 31st of August, who were probably the ones who were surrounding personally Mr. Yahya Sinwar. Anyway, of course, even though Israel is busy with Gaza and trying to retrieve hostages from there, the North doesn't stop, Iran doesn't stop either. And actually 2 days before Farhan Qadi was found, on the 25th of August, Hezbollah planned to send thousands of rockets. After the unfortunate, very fortunate death of Fuad Shukr, Hezbollah wanted to show who is the boss. They failed. This is why Iran had to also step up and say, we'll show you who's the boss. I mean, Hania was probably the greater reason, but Fuad Shukr as well. But the Air Force actually decided to function this year because it didn't for some time. That's a different story. Anyway, the Israeli back on their wings Air Force had eliminated that threat by taking care of all the launchers on the ground. That was a very impressive preemptive strike. And finally, we're getting to the best, sweetest moment.
A bizarre attack coming through right now out of the Middle East.
It's extraordinary, this. Almost unprecedented. I can't think of any case where you've got a almost simultaneous explosion of so many personal devices. Now, these were not mobile phones. They were pagers, which sounds very 20th century.
It does appear that someone, presumably the Israelis, has infiltrated Hezbollah's communication system whereby they've been able to cause these pagers to...
These devices don't appear to be designed to be lethal. So they've inflicted some very nasty wounds, some injuries on people, many of whom are in civilian dress. Now, they may or may not work for Hezbollah, they may be bystanders, but there are hundreds of wounded who have been brought to hospitals across Lebanon.
Pagers where pages just went poo 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 everywhere and got rid of so many unwanted characters, but the goal was not to kill them, but to wound them, to make sure that by existing they would remind everyone what it means to mess up with Israel. And not only that, so that they would be a financial burden. Fun stuff. Hopefully, they'd be more busy taking care of their wounded than attacking Israel. Of course, they needed a little bit more persuasion, so the next day we had the walkie-talkies explode. So on the 19th of September, Israel started going into Lebanon officially, and not just, the unofficial here and there kind of situation that were beforehand. And the next great moment was the death of the legendary living hero, no more living, Hassan Nasrallah. Oh, that was an amazing, beautiful moment. Another thing that happened in September was a very daring operation of Shaldag, that is a special unit in the IDF, who had infiltrated Syria, where they had destroyed a lot of Iranian weapons that were stored in Syria. Can you imagine being a soldier in Shaldag who did that, and you had that moment of fame, but now all that people would remember is that Israel just decimated all the Syrian capabilities after the Assad regime fell, and they kind of would forget that you had this crazy operation as well. I remember, and we remember now. On October 1st, October started with a bang, with a promised and very much anticipated, not retaliatory attack by Iran, and this time they had went for it. They sent tons of ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, drones, everything in the hopes of overwhelming the Israeli system and its allies, so that something would hit. And indeed, some of it did hit, especially this Palestinian man who escaped Gaza to Jericho just to be the only casualty of an Iranian missile attack.
Oh my god, it's right over my house. Why isn't the sirens going off? Josh, why aren't the sirens going off? Steve, why isn't the siren going off? Is it not falling here? Oh my god, oh my god.
In the 16th of October, Yahya Sinwar was found, and he was so brave, and his bravery could not be forgotten, how he fought with a stick when he tried to hit the drone that spotted him. So brave. And he died like a dog, because no, dogs are cute. He was, I don't want to insult animals. He was who he was. Yeah, an awful human being. Goodbye, Yahya Sinwar. You're dead now. On the 26th of October, Israel had decided to show Iran who is the boss, and that their strikes are gonna hit the target. Of course, there were two conditions by the Biden administration, who loves Iran so much and tries to protect them. 1, no oil. 2, no nukes. So don't hit the nuclear facilities of Iran, and don't hit the oil manufacturing facilities of Iran or the oil fields or anything like that. Why? Because they suck and they want to protect Iran. So Israel had struck military targets, removed the radar systems, and just partied around Iran, just showed who's the boss, who can fly over Iran all day, all night, just dropping bombs, taking away capabilities. One of the targets that was hit was actually a manufacturing facility that had set back Iran's future ability to strike Israel with unconventional weapons. It relied on very accurate intelligence that was kind of shocking that Israel had. I wonder if this facility was approved by the Americans because they didn't know what's there. It kind of feels like if they knew it's going to set back Iran that much from being able to strike Israel with unconventional weapons, it might have not approved. Yes, this is how low I think the Biden administration can go. But thank goodness, 5th of November, Trump was elected. Oh my God, that was a moment where the shift was like, that's it. That's it. Things are not going to be the same. You remember this Israel Alone article? Well, guess what? We're not alone. People have brains, apparently. They understand that degenerate pedophiles is not something that you are supposed to be supporting. Yeah, which is exactly what the culture we're fighting against is, for those who are confused. I have other videos on it, so you're welcome to watch them. On my birthday, November 7th to November 8th, there was a pogrom in Amsterdam, done by beautiful humans, and was denied by the Amsterdam mayor. And only person who had taken responsibility in Amsterdam is the leader of the biggest party, who could not be the prime minister because apparently being not anti-Semitic is just something that the Netherlands could not tolerate. Beautiful. Thank you. Well, thank you, Geert Wilders. I hope next time you're not going to be denied of your rightful place as prime minister, and these things would get the right treatment when they occur. On the 21st of November, another degenerate institution called the ICC had published arrest warrants for Netanyahu, which is the Prime Minister of Israel, and Gallant, who was, and not anymore, the Minister of Defense. Actually, is not part of the Knesset anymore either, starting today. And Mohammed Deif, a dead man. Yeah, a dead man got an arrest warrant because apparently the persecutor is a Muslim man who believes that the whole world should be Muslim. How convenient is it that he just followed his ideology? What a coincidence. Could you just background check the people you bring to the ICC to see that they are not part of a cult? Next time, on the 26th of November, Israel reached the Litani, and on the 27th, after they had set their flag there, a ceasefire agreement was signed with Lebanon, just to see the next day the start of the fall of the Assad regime, who was there for 54 years. The Assad family had ruled Syria for 54 years, had held concentration camps, and was very tyrannical, but no more. Because between the 28th of November and the 8th of December, the regime was gone. Actually, there are rumors, at least in the Russian social media, that before leaving, the reason that Assad could leave the way he did without Israel bringing him down is because he actually sold off all the locations of the weapons that he had. So all the deposits that were bombed by Israel were actually, allegedly, some people speculate, locations that were given personally by Assad so that he could have a safe flight out of Syria. Oh well. And with that, Israel had captured the Mount of Hermon, where they can observe what is going on and whether or not there are some illegal smugglings between Syria and Lebanon, for example. It's actually a very good observation point now that Israel is on the top of the mountain. They can see everything that is happening in the valleys around it and have a good look on what's going on and what's brewing with our neighbors. That is a very, very important vantage point on the map, on the local geographical area. Let me go through a couple of things that had happened, but I didn't go through in this list. One thing is the situation of Hindus in Bangladesh, the situation of Christians in Nigeria. There were some drills that China had made around Taiwan, signaling that they want to take over it. The signals seem to get stronger and stronger. North Korea had been acting up, and there was also a war in Sudan that I had mentioned that is still going on. And actually, they got their first humanitarian aid recently, and they were extremely grateful for it. It was the first humanitarian aid they've got. And guess what? The casualties there? Immense. They really needed it. But I guess no Jews, no news, so nobody cares about the Hindus in Bangladesh, nobody cares about the Christians in Nigeria, nobody cares about what's happening in Sudan or Yemen or wherever. As long as you can screw up the Jews, this is where the humanitarian crisis is. Another thing that I talked about and happened this year is the fighting inside the Palestinian Authority, those areas where the Palestinian Authority is trying to prove that they can control, but they're kind of failing. There is a lot of inner fighting, so maybe 2025 would be the year where we would see the collapse of the Palestinian Authority. Which brings me to things that were not resolved yet and we might see happening in 2025. Things like, what's up, Turkey? Turkey is a country that has a very strong army but very weak economy. What are they going to do with that? How is it going to affect this area? Another country which has a very, very weak economy, notice the extra very, and a strong army is Egypt. For some reason, they had decided that they want to go to war against Israel, and they had been purchasing ammunition and aircrafts and tanks and buying ships and enlarging their navies in a clear kind of signaling that they want to go and fight against Israel. Again, they don't even have bread. Priorities. Oh well, where would that go? Egypt. Where would that go? Would the regime in Iran collapse? Are they going to finish up developing the nuclear weapons? Or is Israel or the United States going to strike them beforehand? I guess this is something that we'd know in 2025. Syria, what's going to happen in Syria? Is it going to break apart? Is it going to be part of Turkey? Is it going to be some Islamist hellhole? Is it going to be a thriving democracy in the next Silicon Valley? That is another question that would probably be clearer in 2025. Another open question are the Houthis in Yemen, who had been terrorizing and hurting maritime shipment all over this Middle East, but in general it hurts the shipment all over the world. What's going to be with them? Another question that a lot of Israelis would really want to see resolved is the hostages. Are they going to return home? This is something that we are taking with us to 2025. Another thing that those who are optimistic like to mention is the Abraham Accords. Are we going to see it being extended now that Trump is going to be back? Is it going to be extended to Saudi Arabia? Would it include more countries? This is another thing that the optimists like mentioning. Do I think it's going to happen? I'm actually not sure it would. I think right now there are too many changes in this area, and most players in this region would probably want to not make any decisions until things would become clearer. Another question is, who's going to manage Gaza? What's going to happen with the Gazans? Another thing that is happening right now, just as the year ended and the new year started, Pakistan, Afghanistan. What's going to go there? Are we going to see a major war between Afghanistan and Pakistan? This is something that actually might get answered pretty soon, so I don't have to wait much, and neither do you. And in December, if I'm not mistaken, we had at least 5 ballistic missiles attacks from Yemen, and one of them actually hit a school in Ramat Gan, and one hit a playground in Jaffa. Actually, I personally know of 2 people whose house got damaged because of the ballistic missile attack from Yemen. So that's another thing that had been happening in December. I don't think world media talks much about it, but yeah, they like waking us up at 3 a.m. for some reason. Yeah, that's their favorite time. Like, oh, let's make it annoying for the Zionists. And luckily, when they hit a school or a playground at those hours, there is no one there. Thank goodness. On the 3rd of December, for several hours, there was a military takeover on South Korea. But now, actually, on the 27th, that president who had called for this to happen had been impeached and is no longer in his role as president, and he was replaced. Guess you don't mess with the South Korean democratic system and play around like that. That was a very weird move, man. That was weird. Anyway, South Korea is not my expertise, so that was something interesting that happened and resolved pretty swiftly, unless other things are going to happen. We don't know. And during the last week of December, there was an abnormal amount of airplane incidents. We had 2 airplane crashes that were devastating in South Korea, and Azerbaijani airlines that were flying to Russia and were redirected to Kazakhstan, where they crashed as well. And on the 29th of December, Jimmy Carter died, but I don't have anything nice to say, so I'm gonna say nothing. Well, thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. I would really appreciate it if you want to support my channel. It really helps a lot if you guys can sign up on Patreon or send some coffee, some buy me coffee or something via PayPal. Those things are what keep me going. Thank you so much for being here. May we have an amazing 2025, and love you all, and see you later.